So, is Russia becoming the first country to switch from Windows to Linux? Let's check this out. What's up, guys? It's Josh back with another video, and today I got an interesting article that I wanted to talk about. I know it's a lot of things going on in the world with Russia and Ukraine, and I try to stay out of the political, arena as far as topics, as well as like things like war and things that are going on like that. I try to strictly stick to tech. But I thought this was like super interesting because Russia is obviously invading Ukraine. And so a lot of companies are reacting to this by cutting off services and different things that the company use, especially when it comes to technology and all that stuff. So, and Microsoft is one of those companies that is blocking its technology, push to that country. And if you work in the IT field or been working in the IT field, you know that October is a big month for updates. Microsoft tends to push out a lot of updates, during the month of October, or at least that's been my experience throughout my years of actually working in the tech field. I know it's always important updates that come out during the month of October and rolling into November. But this article was interesting, so let's hop over and read a little bit about it.
Before we move forward, I wanted to ask the Keep It Techie fan to consider joining my channel membership. By joining the membership, you can support the channel, get access to member-only videos, tech mentorship, early technical course access, and exclusive Linux content. Thanks, and back to the video.
All right, so this article is on freethink.com. It came out on October 30th, 2022. And I put it on one of my lists of videos that I wanted to cover. But as you can see, it says Russia tries to impose switch to Linux from Windows. And the subtitle says the move is meant to isolate the country from being cut off by Microsoft. And that's essentially what they did back in June of this year. Microsoft basically cut off Russia from receiving any like security updates and all that stuff. And we all know how important those security updates are, especially in this age of cyber attacks and malware and ransomware, basically targeting Microsoft software. And so if you're not getting those updates, then you could potentially open up your system to some of those attacks. And if you think about it, most countries, a lot of their infrastructure, they use Microsoft products at the end of the day. Not that many, first world countries, use anything other than Microsoft. It's like one of the most, used operating systems within a corporate environment, or as well as running a country. They use that in our infrastructure. Microsoft is heavily involved in our infrastructure, so I'm sure it's the same way in other countries. So that's what kind of makes this article interesting. But it says right here, following Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022 and US and EU sanctions, Western companies began a steady withdrawal from Russian markets. Microsoft was no exception. And like I stated, in June, the company blocked Russian users from downloading the latest version of Windows, impacting the roughly 95% of computers and laptops that currently run on Windows. So just like I said, man, majority of the country, and that's including the government, so that affects the Kremlin and and everything. They're basically blocking them from getting updates on their system. And then if we scroll down a little bit, it says this may not seem like a particularly drastic move to the average Windows user in Russia, who at least in the short term won't be hugely impacted by the loss of remote support from Microsoft or official updates for Windows 10 and Windows 11. Yet the move could have far more wide-reaching implications for companies and government agencies. Yeah, and that's what I meant right there. So the average user might not be affected, because some people, that's not who's really getting targeted by a lot of these cyber attacks. They're going after companies in a lot of cases. Companies as well as government agencies. And like I said, they're using Microsoft Windows in majority of those areas or sectors. Now it says, crucially, these groups are responsible for running a diverse array of everyday commercial and public-facing systems, from elevators and cash registers to medical devices and industrial machinery. So it can affect everything because Microsoft is embedded in everything, you know what I'm saying? Now it says to boost its resilience in the face of this mounting problem, the Russian government has now announced plans for switching from Windows to Linux, a free and open source operating system. So that's what they're planning on doing. They announced the plan. That's what they want to do. It says on September 20th, the Russian daily newspaper, whatever, reported that the Ministry of Digital Development was preparing new changes to policies on software products. While these changes won't be imposed directly, the ministry states that in order to receive preference in tax benefits as well as government contracts, companies or offering software products will be required to switch to Linux-based operating systems. To make this switch, companies would need to rebuild many of their products virtually from scratch. Yeah, that's the crazy part about it. Some things were built to only run on Windows, or the software, you know, that's put out there for whatever is built on Windows. You know what I'm saying? You can't just, it's not just an easy thing of installing something on Linux that's meant to run on Windows. Now, yeah, you have Wine, so you can run Windows applications on Linux, but that doesn't always work, especially depending on the version. It has to be tested and all that stuff to get it to work on a Linux system. Now it says right here, because Linux is free and customizable, it is more flexible and can run far better on older computers. And that's 100% true, you know what I'm saying? And that's one of the reasons why I push Linux, you know what I'm saying? It can run better on older computers. So you can refresh or renew some of your older computers that you have sitting around the house to run Linux, and it'll run a whole lot better, you know, than the Windows OS that was on it before. You know what I'm saying? It says at this stage, it is far from clear how they will handle such monumental logistics, but already leading figures in several Russian software companies have weighed in. Talking to whatever, I don't want to mess up people's names or company names. A company specializing in software security suggests that the requirements should be introduced in stages for different classes of software. And let's get past that ad. But it says under Shmornar proposal, easier to switch software products could be pressured to switch over almost immediately, while more complex systems such as data protection and office management databases could be introduced in Linux after around 2 years. Yeah, so that's something. It will take time depending on the complex of the system, data and all that stuff, and integrity of data. You know what I'm saying? You can't just, you know, move data over. You got to do it in stages and verify that the data is there, and it's a whole lot that you have to do, you know. And then we're talking about, you know, petabytes of data. You know what I'm saying? It says the benefits, the potential advantage of this plan have been highlighted by some of the Russian software industry. First and foremost, Linux is free and open source, or free and customized. This not only makes it more flexible, it also means that Linux can run far better on older computers without the need for costly hardware upgrades. And that's true. Now, this will greatly impact the Linux environment. That's the whole purpose for me bringing this up. You know what I'm saying? A whole country is going to be dependent on the Linux operating system, and this is the first time in history. And that's what made me want to cover this, because that's kind of awesome. You know what I'm saying? It's not awesome what's actually going on, you know, as far as the war and all that stuff over there, but this is forcing Linux into an area that it hasn't typically been in. Windows has been dominating, you know, the desktop environments and all that stuff, as well as, you know, servers and managing all that stuff. Like on a corporate network, Windows has been a dominant player. You know, there is Linux, you know, running on certain servers, you know, but majority of the servers that run like within an organization are Windows based. You know what I'm saying? But let's read a little more. It says Mikhail and like I said, I don't want to mess up people's name. At the Office Software Development, Alma Partners argued that the switch wouldn't require particularly heavy investment or development time. His prediction is that around 10% of software products would require a full rebuild. So that's not bad, you know what I'm saying? Only 10%, you know what I'm saying? They could heavily focus on that. Yeah, and that's one of the things, you know, a lot of things are becoming more and more available on Linux. A lot of software, for instance, I did a video a while back on installing, well, they want to get away from Microsoft, but I'm just saying you can install Microsoft SQL Server on a Linux box. I did a video on that, but at the end of the day, they have an Oracle, you know, database that's out there that's free and open source called MySQL. You can easily use that. You know what I'm saying? You can do a lot of your management of data using MySQL. You know what I'm saying? Depends on, you know, what you're actually doing, but yeah, you can use that. Now it says, for Natalie Selena at the Linux-based Astra operating system, the switch may be fundamentally important steps towards what she calls a full-fledged domestic IT ecosystem. And that's one of the points I was trying to make. You know, that'll change the whole dynamics of how, you know, they'll be totally away from the Microsoft, you know, environment, totally away from it, you know what I'm saying, using their own systems, you know, where they don't have to depend on a corporation. Now it says the roadblocks, perhaps the most pressing issue with the plan is that the number of Russian software developers specialized in Linux-based operating systems number just a fraction of those who have only ever worked with Windows. Yeah, and that is going to be the problem. That's a problem that I was thinking about when I first did it. Not that many people mess around with Linux. You know, hey, they got people out there like me, you know what I'm saying, and they only have, you know, a certain amount of people that work with Linux, you know, in general, and they don't even understand how to, you know, secure the system. Even though, you know, Linux is inherently more secure than Windows, they don't even know how to manage it, you know what I'm saying? And it's a limited amount of people, you see what I'm saying? So that'll be the hardest part. So they're gonna be overworking. So if you are a Linux developer in the country of Russia, you know what I'm saying, this is a good time to put your skills to use, because you can probably make a lot of money out of this, you know what I'm saying, because they're gonna need developers, you know what I'm saying. Now it says, this is a particularly daunting prospect for developers whose products will need to be built entirely from scratch. Yeah, that's going to be a problem. But that's enough about this video. I just wanted to, you know, cover it because I said this was interesting. This will be the first time in history a full-blown country, you know, is switching from Microsoft to Linux. And I foresee something like this happening in the future, you know what I'm saying? I know it's a lot of countries out there that use a lot of Linux anyway, you know what I'm saying, because it's free. Or some countries, they even use like pirated versions of Microsoft, you know, but they do use Linux a lot more outside of the US and other like first world countries. They use a lot of Linux because it's free. And so, you know, that's super cool, and that's real big in the Linux world. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That, like I said, this was an interesting article. I'll always have a link down in the description of the video, so you can go right to the article, check it out for yourself, and also give me your thoughts down in the comments below, man. I really want to hear your thoughts, you know what I'm saying? That really helps, you know, with the algorithm and all that stuff. And you can also like the video, share it, and if you're new here, go on and subscribe to the channel, or consider subscribing. And if you've been around for a little while and you want to support the channel, you know, you could join that membership. I definitely appreciate all the people that are, you know, members of the channel. I definitely appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and of course, keep it techie.